Welcome into your restorative practice today. And as you can see, we don't have any props on our mat. So we're going to start with taking gravity off the spine. And this is kind of a hip spine playtime, right? For our how we organize circulation, organize it. So I want you to have your mat and the short end of it against a wall space. Hopefully you have a full, doesn't need to be that wide, but the wall space doesn't have like a painting on it. Anything that will drop down on you. You need a clear space all the way up. And you're going to sit with no props unless you need a blankie under your head. So if your neck doesn't like this bit of arching, you might put like a little pillow. Like I've got a little pillow over here. I could use this under my head, I guess. Okay, so a little pillow or a towel. Nothing that big, no bolster. But you're going to get close to the wall. It doesn't have to be right up against it. But what I'm going to recommend, let's say you don't have a corner at your wall like this. You're just going to get kind of close-ish and then lean down and bring your feet up on the wall. Now, I say feet because legs is probably too much to force into the position. So we want to start to work with our reverse flow on the spine, okay, reversing the effects of gravity on the spine and the heart, all these good things about inversions. But we're just starting with a few moments of how to reverse and drain out and have an easeful time of the legs and how they respond as far as the flexibility. Okay, so if I get closer to the wall, of course, I'm without anything under my hips, so I can scoot to the wall, nothing, no blanket, no bolster. And then I can feel a little bit of curve in my legs, really noticing, even if you let your arms open out and you close your eyes, see if you can feel where the curve pathways are from your feet to the legs, to the hips, the spine, and especially that cervical spout right at the top of the spine. If you slide a hand back to your neck area, you can kind of feel from the base of the cervical C7 and then all the way up the curve into the occiput. Well, you want to have that curve. Okay, so if I use a blanket or a towel or a pillow under here, it will take it away. Some people need that so they feel more comfortable. It's softer, and that's okay. So as I rest the arms open, I just start with that sense of circulation, reversing from my feet back to the heart. And feel where there's all these places that you're touching on firm surface, right? The back of the pelvis, the shoulders, all the way up the neck. Relax the jaw, the facial muscles, and softening through the psoas, the abdominal area, thinking about that movement of the abdomen, right? It domes up on the in-breath, and on the out-breath, it draws back towards the floor. No limitation at how far it goes back, right? Even though we might think it's embodied, of course, we are living in this body, but as you move it back, feel that it not only moves to the back of the body, but it stretches down to the spine. And then across upperwise into the ribs. So feeling that upperwise, I like that upperwise motion, upper channels, but upper wisdom, like where does the movement go to the upper respiratory, not even that high, right? It starts at the rib space and it flows up to the throat, softening at the throat if the chin is a little bit back, giving it plenty of circulation in the throat space. Okay, and then slide the feet down. So if you're too close to the wall, this will be a difficult one, so you might have to scoot back. But slide the feet down and then bring the soles of the feet together and the knees apart. So as the feet touch, right, noticing the corner of the foot. So from the little toe side, the side of my feet can feel the wall, but also they're kind of contouring on towards each other to push. Okay, so it's kind of on that ledge of my footing. And from the big toe side, right down that inner line, it's open, right? I can kind of wiggle my toes, wiggle my nose, okay? So feeling where the circulation is in the inner leg. You're waking that up. You don't have to push into anything. This is oftentimes taught with hands pushing the legs, but let's be kind and just see what happens with gravity. And it might be really tight. So that's one reason. Sometimes having your hands to kind of press or blocks underneath. I don't think my blocks will go this high. So I just push on a little bit. Be kind. Not forceful, but that might help you if it's a little shaky. And it doesn't stay, right? It just wants to go back in, but it will go back in a moment. Okay, feel where the tailbone centers, and then as we move the knees back towards the rib cage, I want you to just scoot back. So I'm going to use my feet to push into the wall, lift my head a tiny bit, not too much, because I don't want to tighten my neck. So I'm going to scoot back. And then once I'm distant enough from the wall that my feet can push and I can actually lift my hips up, right? So I'm a little too close to the wall. You'll have to estimate this one. You'll have to guesstimate it, because I want you, when your feet are up at the wall and your knees are bending, you can feel this arch in the spine, just like you had that cervical spine arch. Now I got two arches that I can slide my hands under, right? You want all your curves, okay? Curves through spine. So I'm going to bring the arms overhead, and I'm going to have nothing under my head for this one. Lift the hips up, and then I'm just going to lower down the spine. And now, noticing the aspect here of the arching and the scooping of the tailbone, just the right amount, right? Feeling what is a wise amount of movement to activate pelvic floor, back muscles. Okay, so as I lift up the hips, I in-breath, receiving the breath all the way to its end. And then I lower down through upper back, mid, and then climbing all the way. Okay, now as you come back in here, just hug the knees in. They can be wide, they can rock side to side. You can have it still and just hug them in and close your eyes. And scan that sensation, if that's something you scan. Sometimes people like to have matter that they're scanning, like something that they could see, but feeling the awareness in the back zone, or the whole back zone. It may be low, it may climb up the back, and then just roll to your side and then push to come up. All right, and now we're going to start into our cobbler's pose. So take a blanket roll and place it to a space that you're going to have space in below and above, so you have plenty of stretching room. You're going to place a blanket roll and then a bolster on top to make a ramp for your spine, okay? And then you'll take a blanket. I would say this one you don't want to have rolled up. I do see some teachings when you're advised to roll it a little bit at the neck, but that's really up to your experience. If it feels comfortable and it accomplishes relief, that's kind of what we're up to, is we're trying to accomplish relief. It's a relief effort. And then sit in front of your bolster bench, or not bolster bench, bolster ramp. Take a block under the left thigh and a block under the right thigh, and then let the legs rest on the blocks. And then find a belt that you have in a loop. So you want to buckle up, and then overhead, around the back. Once it's around your torso, right? Kind of like a hula hoop thing here. That'd be funny to add to our class. Okay, scoop up your feet, and the soles of the feet are together again. The belt goes on the inside. That's the thing that I tend to notice people get wrong. So the belt is not outside the knee, it's on the inside of the knee. Okay, inside the knee. And then as I lie back, I like to add a sandbag. Okay, but some of you might decide what's more important for you is to get that buckle close to your hip. That's probably more important. My belt is around the eyebrows of the buttocks to the back. And as I recline, the belt's pretty snug, okay? Not so snug that it's painful or it causes too much focus in the area it's pulling on. It's the snug part that I think is beneficial is around the sacrum area, because that place can get that traction. So you could play with it, how it is on the inner leg. Does it go a little bit deeper in? Do you bring it a little bit up to the side, adductor? Yeah, you might get lucky and be able to find like a little bit of flesh that holds the belt. So that's kind of fun. All right. And then we got a sandbag and we cross it or we go heart to belly. I like the sand heart to belly because I feel like it's going to kind of fall down if it's a cross, but there's definitely a reaction in the intercostals when it's around them that's helpful for strengthening your breathing muscles, right? So as you're centered back, let your eyes rest back. And, you know, considering the restorative practice is all these settings of alignment, assigning the alignment, and then feeling your breath. So it is like you going into relaxation in different zones of the bones. So as we feel the bones in this zone of reach in the respiratory muscles, if for any reason you want a deeper, I guess you could say more intense chest opener, you could always do this pose, but have the bolster across the back horizontal, right? So if you feel like, well, I really wanted something more in this entry part of the class, you could always take your bolster. It'd be a little bit of a process, but you could have it this way. And then when you lower back, you probably add another blanket on top of it could be still a rolled up blanket, but this would be more stretching my ribs, right? Because now I got this bolster horizontal pulling and kind of teasing those tissues apart. So it's up to you. If you want to add that kind of idea, that's fine and it's safe, but you want to have it your way, right? So find a way to make it supportive of where you're reaching into with your breathing muscles, how you aspire to be in the practice pose to pose. Okay, now arms are relaxing down, shoulders are rolling back. Now they don't keep rolling. It's not like they're in this turnstile and they go around and around over and over. The only thing that goes over and over is the breath. So start to polish the pose by feeling how you center, even if it gets kind of lazy feeling, that's okay. Calming, breathing slow. Now feeling where the chin is slightly lifted, kind of come back to that from time to time, that you're not trying to push your chin to your chest. You have a little bit of tilt. So moving the sand aside, unbuckle, and then as you slide the belt off of your legs, it can stay behind you, doesn't have to be perfectly put away, but we'll bring the knees to point up and slide the blocks aside. I would keep them nearby, kind of outside from your hip line. The hip height would be good. Right ankle crosses to the left knee, and then we'll add a ball. If you don't have a ball, like a large enough ball. You want one that's kind of 5 inch around or 7, probably not a tennis ball. You could use like a blanket, like a little pillow would be okay to the upper outer left thigh or the ball. Okay, so I'm going to just push the ball in, and then as I lean to the left side with the thigh span, so I like to think this kind of squishes into the pelvis, the thighs. It's also good because it's circulation advancement, right? But I'm isolating in my mid body from my trunk up the body to my head on the bolster. So I'm going to try to move that area a little to the right. So my lower half is kind of going left. And I'll hold the right knee with the left hand and then guide that sensation across the right hip. Okay, now my ball is, I sometimes adjust this. I want it to feel like it's stuffed in and it's actually helping my support of the knees leaning to the left. I want it to help, okay? So as I feel that leaning and I hold the right knee, I happen to be using the block under my left leg. The side of the left foot is turned, so it's rotating. You're on the sickling the foot, so you're on the side of that left foot to stretching to the ankle. And then as your right arm either stretches back besides your head or it's just down besides you. Now feel if there's partially a twist on this pose. I mean, you are moving a part of your body over in one direction. But what about the upper zone? Is it kind of passively resting back? Maybe your head rolls a little to the right. I want to kind of tease the ability to juice a little bit in the body, like the organs, the pulling patterns, the connective tissue. And now we're going to switch sides. So scan this first side, like how'd you set this up? Assuming you got a ball, maybe. Right foot crossed to the left knee or just a little above, called figure 4 pose. And then as you let go of the right knee, you just shift back, uncross, left ankle to right knee, take the ball to the upper outer right hip, and then off you go. So figure 4 pose is basically a pigeon pose, really. It's kind of a reclining pigeon of sorts. And it's the super safe way because there's no real big knee pressure. But it might involve circulation in the knee. So if it's a little too much to tilt the knees to the right, you can always keep it smack dab in the middle, like so. You don't have to move the knees to the right. So it is a bit of a test day to day, how you feel as your right hand holds the left knee. And now on this side, I guess if I put a block there under the right leg, I might like it, but it doesn't seem to want it as much. Okay. So the side of my right foot is resting. My right hand holds the left knee. The left arm offers that reach of the ribs back besides your head. And as you feel that reach through the rib cage, breathing. Maybe you move the left arm down to the floor. I prefer that. And then I can kind of sort out where the movement is in my hips, right? My right hip is pretty relaxed. My left hip is waking up a bit. And keep the spine safe, right? It's not getting any big rotation right now. It's just relaxing back in its arch. Okay, now let's roll the glutes a bit. So you'll remove your hand from the knee and then just keep the ball on that right side because it's already there, right? So I'd say tilt your knees back left. See if you can go with that a little bit of tilt. So your right foot's kind of barely holding on, right? You're going to push the ball to the right rear. And then as you come back over, just uncross your left foot from the knee and then rock across so you're rolling, okay? you're kind of rock and rolling. You're moving into the glute. Since the bolster's right there, you're probably not going to move the ball too high, but you could move it up right into the glute. So when you're rolling on it, your ball on your back, stay on the back with it. You can come up if you want, but you're going to place the ball so it's going to feel like it's from kind of the border of the glute medius, this border on the hip, so rear and then border, and then across you're massaging. So you got to move your hips. Got to be very, very hippie on this one. It's a lot of hip movement, okay? I guess it's not necessarily fast, but it's deepening the pressure into the ball and then kind of scrubbing the tissue. It's a little glute scrubber. So as you go across, if you happen to have the ball with the little knobs on it, the little teeth, that's extra good for that circulation. And if you hit the edge, like you can like push your hips so far over, right? Because now you got this muscle that's pushing into the ball, and the ball's pushing into it. So you find the end range of the muscle. It's kind of nice to do rolling. It's a little different than stretching, but it induces that reflex as well into the muscle fibers. I find it kind of intriguing. And then as I move back into center, I'm going to keep pushing into my feet, push so my rear is off the ground. And then I'll take the ball and move it to the left rear, and then roll, roll, roll your glutes. Okay. Now you're going cross fiber, so you're not going up and down like a foam roller, right? You're going across. That's kind of the difference with the ball. As a foam roller, you're kind of striking a different motion. You should try them both, side to side and see how you roll. How do I roll on this and on this? So a ball is a pretty ideal object for that because it does tend to roll naturally. Okay. So get a feel when you're motioning into the glutes one at a time. Or there's several glutes on each side, but one kind of glute zone. And then the next time you kind of push across, okay, the hips are kind of in the satisfying, curve position. So let's move the ball over to the left, and we're going to roll to the left side. And we're actually going to take a sleeping sage pose because you already have the roll, the movement. So move the belt away if it's still on your mat. And keep the ball nearby. You might be using it. If you need it under your knee, just use it. But let's put our rib cage to turn to the bolster. I'm going to show a couple variations here. So right thigh pushes into the left foot. So I'm turning, arching, and then relaxing on the bolster and the blanket under my head, turning my head to the right. Okay. I've seen some really enjoy a block under their hands. Yeah. It may seem like, well, that's a little bit too easy, but it might take a load off and give some interesting traction to your shoulders and your hands, right? They tend to be pushing something all the time, getting something, pulling, pushing. So you might even use the blocks to relax your hands, like little baby hands. But feeling where the hip lands and where the ribs turn. And if you're so used to hands on the ground, you can't imagine changing that up, that's okay. Yeah, this is a nice approach, but if I feel how my shoulders are gliding, this is unusual and I kind of like it. So I'm going to change it up. So elbows are on my blocks. My hands are relaxing. I'm playing with how to use the blocks. The low setting. To block or not to block is up to you. Okay, so we're starting to work our way from our hips to the low back. And then definitely around the thoracic, that mid-spine area, into the ribs. Okay, so let's push down and then come into a side sage. So you'll come up on that left hip. If you're on the corner of your left hip bone and it feels uncomfortable, you can always put a towel there or another blanket or a little pad. Some people find that is not comfortable as you get older, right? So I have two mats, so I kind of pad it up. But if you need some more padding and it's uncomfortable, the best thing to do is add padding, not necessarily force yourself into being uncomfortable with the hip. So we're going to take a couple blocks on the other side of your blanket. Okay, if you got one or two down, you'll find out. One or two blocks. I'm going to make it so it's very elementary and basic, so you know how you can get support. And then a couple blankets stacked up about the height of the bolster or a little lower. And then I'm still in the same position of sage pose, right? So this is a sage pose in yoga. Is one leg is externally rotated, one leg is turning in. Some people call it deer pose, actually. So as I lean to the bolster, I'm going to add my ball under the right knee, and I'm going to get that sandbag. I'm sand ready. Okay. So as you clutch onto your sand, if it's a little uncomfortable to tug it up there once you get set, just put on your bolster, and then it'll keep your bolster down. And then when you lean in, okay, you can find the head moving down. Now, sometimes this, before my head goes down to my blanket, I'll put my sand on, and I'll just kind of feel how that support is of the ball under my right knee. And the right arm reaches overhead. Okay, the hand touches down. If this is too high, you can just change it up, right? Some of us might find that we have one block at the highest setting, and that's plenty. Some will go a little lower. Okay, but if you can feel it in the shoulder, like it's pins and needles, it's too low, right? So if that's still working in the sensitivity of the shoulder, right, you can always let the right arm rest on your side or down on the bolster. Okay, there's nothing that says you have to do this to get better, and you're developing your arm, shoulder circulation. Okay, it might be a benefit. So as far as letting my head relax on the blanket, that's big for me, so my neck can relax. So if I turn my head a little left, like trying to push my head a little into the blanket so I can relax my neck. And then stop pushing, right? Just let it be. And feel that side body extending. The feeling where there's motion with just the breath. Once you find that still point of the pose, you kind of surf the pose with the breath. Okay, now let's counter pose. So we'll let the right arm motion back. Maybe it feels good to kind of spread your wings a little, feel the chest area stretch, relax your head on the blankets. Now as I lower down my right arm, I move the sand off, and we're going to counter twist. Okay, so we've been letting the right side body reach. So as I shift onto the rib cage, this is where I like to kind of meet my ribs. Like, okay, ribs, you get a feeling of moving into them, because usually we're sitting on our sitting bones and we're moving our shoulders, and all the stuff in the middle doesn't get touched, right? I mean, it might touch a car seat or something, but with our movement. So turnstile the ribs, And then as you come up, you want to kind of stay with that turnstile. And you're going to come to sit on your bolster, stretch the right leg out. Okay, reset your clothing so you're all cozy. And then right leg out straight out to like 1, 2 o'clock. Okay, that kind of thing. Just make sure the knee is comfy. So if my knee feels a little vulnerable because I'm sitting up on something, that's part of the reason it's vulnerable. And also easier for my back. I'll put a ball under my knee or a blanket or a towel. And then on under my left knee, I'm going to put a block so everything's all supported, and take a sandbag onto that left thigh, and then take a twist. So counter twist. So we had our left rib cage stretching over, right? So as we turn to the left again, it's kind of the same in some ways. My right hand kind of pushes onto the left leg, and then when it pushes, I got to be kind, right? I'm not trying to like hit my knee or anything, but I am using that gesture of holding onto the left leg. Like a knee is kind of nice to have. My hand can cradle around it. It conforms the knee. And as I turn, I'm trying to get a feeling of turning my ribs. And remembering the bolster was under it a few moments ago. As I inhale, kind of liven up the rib space. Okay, now we're going to need another prop, by the way. All right, so find a block. Okay, get one. If one's way behind you, get it and bring it over in your right hand down the sides of your right leg, high setting. Just go for ease. And then lean with your right elbow onto that block. Make sure the block's there so you don't fall over. And the left arm stretches over the side. Now, it doesn't have to go side of your face, and you be careful because some of us, that's just too much strain. So when I'm reaching, I'm okay with it if I feel like I'm going kind of wide with the arms, like goalpost, right? It's kind of like a goalpost position, but you're a tilting goalpost. And then the left arm relaxes behind my back, and I lean in to the right side. Yeah, I'm going to prop my head up here. I'm just going to bend through my right elbow and let my hand hold my head. And then I can sink in a little deeper to the side stretch. Anyone feel that? It's a good one. So it's called revolved head to knee. Pravrita Janu Shirshasana. Revolved Pravrita Janu Shirshasana. Head to knee. Okay, it's a good one. I do sometimes feel some zone of kind of pinch to the right, like connects the hip up into the right SI area. So this is one where you got to be a little careful about how far down you go. So if I go up a little bit and don't lean into my hand, feels a little better in the SI joint. Probably I should stay up. Okay. It's telling me something. All right, now push into your right hand on the block and then come up and put a block in front of you on your mat at the lowest setting. Okay. Place the right foot on top. If your knee is a little grumbly, just take it easy here. You can always push the foot in the block a little bit farther out, further forward. That kind of works too. And as I lean forward to the foot, I'm going to reach back on my bolster. If this is too low for you to reach to, you can hold a belt behind. This is a pretty good one. Holding my belt, open the chest, lean forward. Now the shoulders motion back and down. Chest lifts. If you are craving a little more hip work, right, of course, you could go a little lower, but this doesn't mean it's not effective if I don't feel the burn or anything. So I want to focus better on better alignment from my hips, from the root from my lumbar spine across the back of the pelvis, SI area, SI joints. So you might find when you lean in that inner thigh pull, like there's a little bit of bogginess in there. So I'm just tilting at the hinge of my hips. It's still pretty challenging. If your left knee is not up for this, let the legs straighten out on that left side, and just put a ball under that. See, that works out really good. I like that. If you want to add a little extra zest to your pose, just let the left leg stretch out, ball under knee, sandbag can still be on the thigh. Okay, take a few more breaths, no rounding backs, right? So holding the belt, holding the bolster, one or the other, and lean forward. Okay, now can you come up using the posterior core? Think about when we do tummy time, right? Face down on the bolster, belly down. We try to lift up, right? Let's try to make this a little tummy time. So I'm gonna move back, spine up. It's an easier tummy time than that, I know. But lift up to the sternum. Yeah, happy insides. And then lower down the right foot. Okay, so now let's switcheroo. So we've done a pretty good mastery on that one side. So when we come down to sleeping sage on the right hip, we'll just take the legs to reach forward, lower down your seat off the bolster, and then turn to the right. And then I'm just going to pivot my bolster on top. I'm a little fussy on this one. I don't need my blankets perfect, but I like a blanket on top for my twist. Some people don't like any blanket on top. So I think I like it because my neck has a different curve than other parts of my spine. So I like to feel like this contour of my neck has support, a little bit of curve with the blankie. So as I lean in, blocks on the side. You got props for a reason, use them. And then as you lower down, focusing on navel towards the bolster, or like on the bolster. Navel down. Okay, heart down, head turns left, arms reaching up onto the blocks, or no blocks, up to you. Okay, but feeling from the back of the pelvis, right, from the tailbone, from that curve, the curve through the spine, heart relaxing. Now feeling where in the lower belly, it's kind of sleepy on this one, right? We do want to have the belly relaxed here. So there's no gripping in there. So we're trying to work our way now. We come to push into our blocks to turn the bolster. Just push off the top blanket if you've got it on there. And then as we set up, we got a block at the back, maybe you have two, maybe you stack them up like this, one at the low setting, one at the high setting, all up to you, okay? Now, I've got a gap between the bolster and the blanket. That's really, really important for your shoulder. Yeah, kind of think about how we're moving in the shoulder here. So my ball under the left knee, I'm gonna put my sand on the bolster, and then when I lean in, I let my side abdominals, I think sideominally, as I lean, and then I feel that arch. It is a kind of a different archy feeling when you're on your side versus if you're on your back arching. Or face down, prone arching. It feels different. So it might feel like kind of satisfying for your back muscles when you go side stretches. Apparently they're better. They could be effective. So when I lean my head down, I'm going to kind of feel into the shoulder, because sometimes when I strike the arm back, it starts to heat up right onto the side border of the shoulder, into the joint. It feels a little bit tight. So maybe it's better that I put my hand on my shoulder and just kind of do some motions, little circles, and feeling that as I stretch my armpit a little bit back. And then maybe you get that reach. Maybe you're doing none of this. Maybe your hand is on your bolster or the side, and that's fine. But feel that reach through the shoulder and the waist, right? Think of both of those categories, right? Not just, I got to do this pose or get the shape, right? That's not a good way to practice, right? Not that I have to judge your way, but you want to find making pathways in the body, right? Feeling the side pathway, the side spaces, I guess is what it is, right? We got front space, side space, back space, inner space is twists and inversions. So when I'm reaching, sometimes it feels pretty good. I even reach beyond the block all of a sudden. It's past that. So feel the body being breathed, right? Feel the ribs expand. And let your head relax. The right leg is hugged up to the bolster. You're not sitting on the bolster. You're hugged up next to it. Okay, now with that left arm reaching, you're just simply going to lower it down next to your hip. Okay, so you can feel you're turning to the right. So we're going to be coming up to sit and keep this awareness in the side. Okay, now as you shift, you might just push your sand over. I'm going to see if I can keep it minimal changes of props here. So as I come up on my bolster, sit, and then right leg goes back to that bend, the left leg goes out. I'm always a little careful of the knee, so I put a ball under my left knee. And I first want to kind of face forward and just align so my hip points forward, a block under my knee. Remember, you're going to need block besides your left leg on this side, so we don't forget that on this one. So block besides the left leg at the highest setting, okay? Now, as the sand is added, maybe you're able to get into the seated pose with your sand still on your side, I'm not sure. But as you're turning, navel center, okay, and then in that navel center, if you draw a line around, right, it's going to be going towards, you're going to be catching the lower ribs, or some of us might draw to our lumbar, I guess. So I want you to get a feeling that you're turning the navel to the right, and then the right hand back onto the blanket, or if you feel like you don't want to touch down that high, maybe you put your hand lower on one blanket or the floor. But it's going to depend on the shoulder. Yeah, it's a sticky area, right? It's not as if it's going to suddenly just turn and easily go into the notch and then your heart just lifts, right? It might be a work in progress here. Maybe it's processing. So what I find, instead of relying on the joints, is I'm relying on the areas that don't have issues as often in the tissues, is my core turning, right? And try to get this area in the middle to actually engage in that turnstile. Yeah, use the ribs here as the turnstile. Left heel reaches. Breathe. It only helps. It can be really excellent in a twist. Okay, now I'm using a lot of control with my left hand on the right knee to kind of stabilize up into my left shoulder joint. Sometimes holding and getting some tone can actually help it feel good. And then I'm going to keep reaching to the right, but I'm going to bring the right arm up. up and up to the back, right to the back. So lift the right arm and then left hand reaches to your block besides your left leg here. Bring your elbow down to that block. Okay, and take your time because it's sitting bone to sitting bone. It's not one sitting bone, right? You got one sitting bone now to the other sitting bone, and then you have an arm, and it doesn't have to go over the side of your face. It could go to the back, and you still are finding that quality circulation in the side almonals. See, it's kind of like side almonal 2. We were lying on the bolster on the side. That was side almonal 1. This is side almonal 2. Feel when the arm is reaching. Breathe. Okay, now right arm goes back. Right hand maybe touches your back. Maybe you kind of use the webbing between the thumb and the index to help push into that notch of the side and then come on up, like hands on the hips, okay? And then left foot goes forward. I think a block is excellent to have underneath. That way you can stimulate in the hip like a pigeon pose, right? It's not that different. It's actually a little bit more, but easier underneath. So as I lean forward, right? I'm guilty of the neck thing too. So what I have to find is just that inner vine of the breath, kind of feeling it in my ribs. Notice how you fill up with the breath. There's a limit, okay? You're eventually gonna go, I gotta exhale, or it's gonna do it on its own anyway. But noticing if you have that repetition mission of breathing, you might be able to stay, you meditate in the moment, right? As far as breathing focus into the hip. If you don't want to keep holding on, you can bring your hands back to your bolster. You could interlace your fingers, stretch your arms back. You can hold a belt. That's always nice for this one. When I get a feel of reaching, and this is going to be important because we're going to go to tummy time next. So I want you to get a feel of that inner, trying to create an inner lift. Not that it's perfect. Okay. If it was perfect, you wouldn't even bother being here, right? Okay, now as you come on up, feel the back space. Try to give it that emphasis of lift up versus rounding. Okay. All right, now take the sand off. Okay, I want to see if we can do tummy time with sand on our tailbone into our back. I want to see how that goes. So uncross to take the block to the side. Blocks are in the side yard. Okay, so this is going to be fun. So come on down. If you need to do a little windshield wiper, I would say that might be a smart move here. Just elbows on your bolster. Just let your knees tip side to side. If there's anything I missed, let me know. I think we got it. Okay, so now, as I turn back to my bolster, I'm going to turn it so it's lengthwise. And we all got sand, maybe some of you have sand, maybe not everybody, but we're going to place our feet to the wall and the bolster is going to be supporting. So let's see if I put my sand on a block next to my mat, an easy reach. Put both blocks so it's more support for my sandbag. Let's see if this will help me get my sand on my back. So I'm going to reach forward. My bolster is a little too friendly with my hips there. I'm going to move it a little up. Okay, now I got it. Okay, so I'm straight down, right, belly down. Okay, so I'm going to get my blankets in for safety. I'm going to try to get that sandbag. I'm going to move it on over. That was a so-so helper. And then the sand is from your tailbone. That you got to have on the tailbone. Now this might feel like it's a little too much on your tush, right? But have it so that you can feel it on the lumbar spine. So it's in the curves. This should feel really cozy on right in this whole area. Okay, we don't want anything too harsh on the back. If you decide I'm going to slide it up and just see if it feels okay, that's okay. I just want you to have this lower back to find some ease. So my knees are apart. My elbows are going up. This is too high. Okay. So one blanket, elbows wide, and come down into a surfboard. Okay. So my forehead rests. If you want to put your forehead on a blanket, I'm going to play with it and see. I'm going to turn my blankies lengthwise, forehead down. Okay, now my arms are forward. Oh, this is so good. So let the spine center, let the back of the pelvis, feel that reach. And then as you flow with the breath, feeling that the bolster is a bit of input into your breathing cycle. Like you have to kind of really in breath, filling up. And then as you exhale, relax the heart down. Okay. So this is a true restorative pose, isn't it? It's really pretty restorative. My feet are maybe pushing a little too much on the wall. I might just scoot my bolster a little forward and then see if I can relax my feet so I can ease my back. Okay, let's take about 5 more breaths, just parked here. Park in our pose. Pose Parker. Okay, now, if you've got the sand on, it's kind of nice. I don't really want to get rid of it, but if you don't want to get rid of your sand, there's you can stay in sandasana. But otherwise, just push it over to the side. Okay, there's other good things to do, There's plenty of good things to do. So, elbows down in Sphinx pose, and then lifting up your chest. Be realistic. It's not going to go that high with comfort. So, and then we lower your head down to your blankets, forehead pushes, inhale, and then exhale, lifting up your head. Okay, one more time. Lower down your forehead to the blanket. Inhale, exhale, and then inhale coming up. Okay, now exhale or so, hands back. And I want you to feel your feet push the wall now. And then elbows by your sides. The knees come up off the ground. And then feel a little arch through the spine. If this is like, oh, this is a lot, I was liking the sand idea better. Take it easy, knees down, arching, knees down when you arch, coming up with the chest, pushing into your hands. And then come back to table and round the back into cat. And arch. So my knees are a little bit farther out than I usually do in cat-cow. So I'm going to bring them in a little closer. You can tell when they splay out. And then you can't really monitor your hips. So taking a moment where you flex and arch the spine. Push the floor away. Inhale, arching, tail back. Exhale, rounding, tail under. Okay, now toes under. I'm assuming they are. Hands walk back under your shoulders. Let's see, let's take this one. So we're going to move our bolster off to the side. Okay, you're going to need a block set on the right side of your mat. Okay, it's kind of an obstruction of view here, but I think we'll get to it. So hopefully you can see me fine. Okay, so I'm going to push back and lift up the knees. And then as I walk into my downward dog pose, my heels are lifted on the base of the wall. So I press the floor away. And I really create that reach in my back. It's like, it's a perfect blend of strength and flexibility. There's really, this is the perfect blend of them both. Okay, now move your feet a little bit away from the wall and your hands walk back towards your feet. Take a forward fold. If you like to have your seat touching the wall, because it is like a helper, isn't it? It's kind of helping. I let my seat touch the wall and I let my spine just basically drain down, taking gravity off my spine. Just kind of removing that daily experience of just that compressive element of standing for my spinal column. All right, now getting that circulation to the face, Yeah, good inversion. You might hold your elbows in a forward folding inversion. Let your head nod a little side to side. Okay, now we're going to do an L stretch. So you're going to come on up. It's called L shape. We're going to come on up. If you're too close to the wall, step a little way, and then come on up and turn before you get too lightheaded. Your hands to the wall, and we're going to make an L shape. Okay, so my hands push to the wall, and I stretch out my back. So I think the key for this one in instructing it and feeling it is to bend your knees just to straighten out through the back. And I actually apologize for saying the word straighten because that's not a really good cue for our backs, period. Right? We want to keep all those curves. So you want to bend the knees and then feeling the chest stretch, then that creates a curve. Okay. Now, come on up by just pushing into the wall, lifting your head, and step the right foot to the wall. Turn to the left so your feet are in a wide stance. And now we're going to take a wide forward bend. What I call it Y forward bend. Okay, the Y forward bend. So as I bend forward, I hinge at my hips, I push my rear back. This is definitely one we teach in the bones classes, right? We want to push our rear back. So you got to have a wide stance so you can balance. Okay. As you go forward, grab your blocks and have them under your hands. I highly recommend you keep your blocks. Even if you're feeling like you're the most mobile right now, you can put your hands on the ground. Maybe you put your blocks lower. That's okay. That's fine. Of course, you're going to do what you're going to do. But I like to feel this where I have a little more elevation in my ribs versus dropping them. Okay, I have my feet in that wide reach, so turned in a little bit. And then I'm going to lower down gradually with my block height. And I would prefer not putting weight on my wrist, to be honest, on this kind of stretch. Because some people like this because it's like a wide downward dog, but no wrist stuff. So if you push your blocks a little bit further forward and let the arms stretch, there's less wrist pressure. And even less wrist pressure would be just let your hands reach to your side of your lower legs and let the weight of your head stretch out your spine. Okay, how about that one? But this isn't for everybody. Some people will find this just makes them kind of panicky or they just don't like the feeling of the blood pressure dropping so quick. So you might have your hands on the blocks and just let your hips stretch back. Okay, but taking that wide reach, breathing. Okay, feeling where the hips are motioning back and the knees are bending. Remember we did that with L shape at the wall, knees bending to get the back to stretch. Okay, now first things first, feel the inner leg stretch, checking that box. We got to check that flush. So we got the inner leg stretch, and then we move our weight towards the roots of the toes. Think about feet first, and then to the hands, and then take the blocks. I think you're going to have to turn them up to at least the second setting to be able to mobilize them. Pretty flat, it's kind of hard for me to get my hand around the block. And I'm going to turn to the left foot and take a lunge. My lunge is going to be kind of mid lunge. I'm not going to put my knee on the ground for this one. So my right heel pushes to the wall, both feet now parallel away from the wall. Take the blocks up as much as you like. I mean, they don't have a button to go higher, which is kind of a bummer. It would be nice if this block would go up. I guess you could stack them up or use a chair. This would be a reason to use a chair under your hands to reach forward. So feel the hip center, and then, don't take your hands off the blocks entirely, but feel what it's like to push back into your right foot, arch through the spine. Okay, left arm stretches out. Keep one hand on the block, right hand. The block is a little out to the right side. It's not in front of your right foot. It's a little out to the right side so you don't fall over. And then you turn to the left and work on balance. Left arm stretches up. The left leg for me right now is bending. You could try to straighten it. Okay, that's going to be more hip, but it's up to you. I'm going to keep it bending. Seems more comfy. And then left hand lowers down and just switch sides. Right foot step forward. Left leg steps back. Left foot steps back into the leg. Parts to reach the wall. So feeling how you coordinate mobility to where you coordinate so it's comfortable. I think that's the key to living, right? Like I've got to use the body parts to kind of loosen up and juice areas and keep some circulation, motion is lotion. But then as I master that resistance right now, because I'm in a higher lunge, so heart's a little busier. Yeah. And then I just turn to the right and bring my right arm up. Yeah, you're already there. Okay, so feel the turn. Okay, and if you feel the turn and the burn, maybe that's not the greatest thing. You might bend the knee, feel it move a little forward, not over your toes, but bend the right knee so you can feel establishing that basin of support to move from. Good work. And then lower the right hand down. We need a round of applause right now. Okay, so for all that motion. Okay, lower down the back knee. Okay, now as we're here in the lower lunge, I do want us to target a little bit into the quads. So we're going to move a bolster across the mat. And if you want a blankie under your left knee, add it. If you're feeling like I'm okay, you know, be honest with what feels supportive for you. Now, as I put my weight forward into that right foot, my knee is above the ankle, but surely I see people do this. I still see people put their knee way over their toes. You know what's going on, but they can do it, I guess. But I don't think that's the best thing for the knee or the whole hip zone. But you find if you can have it above the knee and maybe a little forward. But the back thigh is where the work is, right? So I can feel the left quad, the psoas. It doesn't mean this is the best thing for my psoas to do this and feel like it's intense and I should do this more and it will get better. So what I find is good is to have my blocks close to my sides. And then I take a little bit of the load off of the ultra stretch. Feel the shoulders motion back, a little bend in my elbows, and feel the chest forward. And then I can feel the line of energy through that left hip. Hip flexor. Okay, the back knee is on the ground for me. Okay, now we're going to switch sides one more time. We're going to keep it real basic. So left foot forward, right foot back. Remember, if you need a blanket or this is the knee that needs a blanket, then quick, right? Sweep one in under your knee. And then as you lower down, some of us use the bolster enough that it takes the load off the knee. So if I kind of scoot a little forward on that bolster and my knee is just, it's not on the bolster, but it's giving a nice stretch in my thigh. The bolster's helping. So knee above the ankle, maybe scrunch your toes and scoot them forward on the left foot. Get those blocks in, lift up, breathing. We're going to go upside down next. We're in the next little phase, so we're getting there. So as you're feeling that psoas, or maybe you're not sure what you feel. It's just like it's a tight area on the front of the thigh into abdominal basin. And let the spine feel its curves, right? Maybe enhance that feel of not rounding your back, but feel the curves. Okay, now, simple. So let's come back. What I want us to do is move the blocks off to the side yard, okay? We're going to walk our left foot over to the right, and we're going to take a seat, and then take our blankie at the back. I want you to have one blanket across, and then swing your leg around. If that didn't work just like that, you want to just take a seat so you're facing to the wall, and you got lots of space between your bolster and the wall, and then you'll come onto your back, and you're on the bolster, meaning back on bolster. Back on bolster. The final chapter is called Back on the Bolster again. Here we are. All right. So that's what we ended up doing, is getting on bolsters. So I got my belt And I would like it to be belted to connect the buckle. That would probably be helpful. So I'm just going to kick my legs up, shake them out. They've had enough little pulling on them with bending and lunging. So I'm just going to buckle up and scoop up my feet and then push them out. It's kind of nice. Do a little leg float from all that bending. Just flush it out, drain it. So as you're in the draining lane, feel the knees maybe a little bit of a micro bend. Maybe not. Maybe you like them straight. But feel when the arms are opening, that span of movement in the, well, where is the life force? Like, where do you feel it? Is a little bit of tug of life in the lower belly? Is it just feel good to get upside down in general? It's okay if you don't do it very often, then you really appreciate it. But it's fine to just feel where the legs have that reach. Okay, so what I have is the legs in a wide stance. If you're not sure, she's got legs in leg float. And with the feet circling, right? If you don't have the belt connected, that's okay. You can hold the belt with your hands and still do the same thing. Some people prefer holding the belt. It's just kind of shaky without something being held onto. And it's interesting how the upper bones pulling and kind of balance the nerve sensation in the base. So if you find it just better to hold the belt, just hold it. Okay. Now bending the legs, reach up to the belt and slide your feet together. Take the left leg, lower it down, lower the left leg down. If it's pushing the wall, it might actually be kind of nice. And feel when your hands hold the belt over, maybe it's overhead, maybe it's not quite back there. But I'm just going to slide my hands in like a prayer position so the belt's between my thumb and my index fingers in the thenar web space is what that's called. And again, if you're too close to the wall, you can push back. I like to feel my foot pushing. I think it's kind of, it has an interesting energizing effect. And then switch sides, left foot up, switch so the right leg lowers. And it might be stepping. Now, let's say your leg straight doesn't feel okay in your back right now. You can bend the right knee and put the right foot on the floor, and that might feel more stable for your pelvis and also your hamstring on the left side. So it's all up to you. But we're going to start to sweep pretty deep in our finale here for the hips. So it'll be nice to find that blend of reverse flow in the legs to the hips, as we're doing right now. Okay, now slide the right foot in, hold the belt with your right hand, and cross the left leg over to the right. Take a swing through the movement of the pelvis and the hip. Think about pelvis and sacrum kind of meeting together. I mean, they are together, but have them find that motion together. We want the sacrum to be a focus on stability, though, you know that. So, but I don't want you to frame it that you have to pull something, or you are pulling the leg a little bit here, but not jerking motions. Okay, to make one thing flat and one thing move, but let them move together. And then as you bend the left knee, we're going to move the knee back center, and then the right foot slides into the belt and the right leg lifts. I'm purposely letting my left leg stay very bendy. So when I cross the right leg to the left with my left hand holding it, holding the belt, holding the foot, then I just feel a little more carefree, which will make sense when we get to the crossover with the sandbag option next. Okay, I like a blankie under my head. Not everybody does. Some people like more blankets than others. Bend the right knee. Slide the belt off. Bring your knees to your chest. And take a ball and place it between the knee bones so you can feel that you can process that pressure into the ball a little bit. Squeeze the ball. Squeeze like you're going to try to pop it. Okay. Okay, now relax the squeeze and then let the knees go side to side. Okay, and feeling how slow motion, how the response is with your flexibility. It's like, I don't know if you feel like that's kind of easing it up. My back track, as we track the back into our revolved core crossover. I kind of want to remind myself sometimes not always to call it a hip crossover because it's really revolving the core as well. Okay, now we're going to get really into that core span. So knees to chest and then push the bolster carefully. Don't drop your spine fast or your tailbone here. Just be slow. And then we'll move the bolster to the right side of our mat. Okay. And then as you lower down your feet, lift up the hips, have the ball center the knees if you still do. You don't have to keep it there, but just go to that little bridge pose and then lower the spine down. Okay, feel the tailbone gently arch. Knees to chest, take the ball out, and then let the right leg stay bending and leaning towards your bolster, but not on top of it. And left leg swings over to the right on the bolster. Now the whole leg, all the leg parts aren't going to be on the bolster. Like your groin's not going to be on the bolster, but you might get the bolster snug up to you. Okay, and you might even have to put a block on top of it so that it feels successful. Like this for some people is more successful than having it kind of shaky or just feel like it can't quite lower. And then if you have a sandbag, you're going to add that on the outer left thigh. Okay, think of it as the thigh versus just the hip zone only. So when my thigh is moving across, it's kind of funny how we move our thighs. It's generally it's kind of trotting along, and then we try to get the crossover movement. It's just a little unfamiliar with our posture. So trying it on. So left arm open. Try on your pose. See how it feels. Left arm is spanning waist, so you can feel this is a revolved core. Okay. So I try to think on feeling both sides of the core, and then it gets all mixed up because it's a twist. So you don't know what's the front, what's the back. Because you're working on the inner space. So you don't have the front and the back. It's just that inner cylinder. Breathing slow. Now head comes back centered. Ball moves away. And then just switch sides. See if you can kind of find your lines of energy on side one. Kind of scan, where is this in my hip? Just simple. And then sand can go to your belly or maybe on the floor. Some people don't like their sand on the belly, and that's okay. Push into your feet, move your hips a little to the right, and the knees point up, and then bolster to the left. Okay, final pose before our legs up. Left leg bendy and right leg swinging. Okay. Sand, if you want to go ball free, that's okay. Some people find that it's a nothing to have a ball, it doesn't do anything. I think it has some sort of information moving into my pelvis. I like that little anchor. And as the right arm opens, you might let your head turn to the right. You might feel the right shoulder drop down to that right kind of corner border of the shoulder. And even if you don't feel like I feel the border of my hip or my shoulder, maybe visualizing it like it's an art project, like, okay, where would that be when it moves? Where do I feel the pelvis, the femur? It's all pretty basic. And then that inner whirl of the core through the cylinder. Head can be centered or turning to the right. And now moving the ball, Sam goes off to the side and we'll do our final pose. Now roll to the left, come on around, and let's take our bolster to the wall. If you're not finding this is a friendly way to do an inversion and you'd rather have your bolster on some blocks, like a bolster bench, like in the center of your mat, and just put your bolster up on some height, or put your legs up on a chair, that's perfect, okay? And if you have a preference to go kind of in this all-out version, that's fine too, okay? But you want to be comfortable. So you want to sit with your rear to the wall. And I recognize that not all of us are going to find that our legs touch the wall. It's a pretty flexible motion with our hamstring. So if you find this is not working for me, what I recommend is just to move the bolster a little bit away from the wall and maybe a little bit further away until you find, okay, I can do it. Okay. So the arch of the spine on the bolster, I think, is the ticket, okay, to get your legs to be up. It's kind of funny if you walk around or you look at your posture when you're standing on your feet, how important this arch is, the curve, to wellness. So if I find that if I'm a little away and I feel this arch, this natural back bend, it's a supported back bend as well, I'm pretty good, okay? I don't feel like it's that much more amazing to have my seat at the wall. It is more of an inversion, so to speak, vertical, but this is comfy. My back is happy. That's what's important. What's comfortable. So sand on the feet is an option. Option 2 would be sand across the ribs. So let's say you have a couple of sandbags. You could put one on your feet and then on your ribs. You can't do it the other direction. I'm going to use a low height on my blanket. I know it's better for my neck to not round as much. Let's say you feel uncomfortable with no blanket. It's like it gives you a headache. The circulation is just not good for you. What you might do is have a really low blanket, like really low, and then just make a tiny curl at your kind of right at C7 at the base of cervicals, just right at the neck basin, just a little bit of a curl with the blanket. It might be helpful. You can modify it around the side of your neck. It may feel like that's it. That's what I like. And then relax your head. Let your eyes rest. Let your spine center. And if you want to just have a blanket that's under your occiput, so that shelf at the back of your skull, if you bring your fingers around to your skull and it meets right at that bone that sticks out at the top of the trapezius, you can kind of just get the blanket. You're right there and across. And as the body drains, reversing the effects of gravity on the heart, the lungs, and softening in the belly. Feel if there's just one more thing that you can adjust to feel openness in the chest. Maybe it's the shoulders kind of rolling under. And then as you breathe in through the nose, or maybe you take a few breaths with your mouth, that's okay. You know, it's a muscle too, right? Your breathing muscles are muscles that are adapting, just like your shoulders. Feeling where your center of gravity is here. And then practicing that patience of returning the body to a place of balance and peace. Now shifting the weight, balancing on the tailbone, especially with this cushion under you. That's interesting, right? It spans wider than the tail. So kind of find your anchor and then shift the feet away from the wall just a tiny bit. The legs kind of find that lift, that inner lift into the bones with the sand on the feet. It's great. Thigh bones kind of rest in the back of the hip sockets with tone. Femurs, resistance. And then bending your legs. If you don't have anything precious overhead, you could just drop the sand behind you. But you have to be a little careful about your hamstrings, just swinging the sand overhead. You don't want to pull anything here. So as you reach up to the sand, perhaps, just slide it over to the side. Kind of like we started, right? We had the leg lift, we had the feet together. We had all these options that we started with. You could just let the legs have a little separation. And then as you find your way into legs drawing towards your chest, hug them. Get familiar with this digestive tract now, that pressure of the legs to that core. And then just roll to your side. Moments, hands push, and then come around to find a sitting position. You might want to sit with your back right up to the wall. If your bolster's away from it, though, you have to push it back and you'll fall between the two. You can have your feet in cobbler's pose or cross-legged. Sometimes cobblers feels easier on the knees. Sometimes cross-legged pushes. So you might have a little lift of the knees and just bring your hands to your heart and unite our focus. Kind of in this, it's beyond like a virtual community. We have connection, right? So finding that awareness of all of us in practice, uniting our breath. Take a slow breath in, belly soft. And with exhales, bowing into the peace behind your heart. Gratitude.